And it will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Bridges, Buckner, Coleman, Cook, Coram,
Good morning.
Danielson,
Good morning.
Donovan, Fields,
Present.
Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Henriksen, Heisey, Holbert, Huckes Lewis, Kirkmeyer,
Excused.
Colker,
Thank you.
Lee, Liston, Lundeen, Moreno, Pedersen,
Here.
Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott,
Here.
Simpson, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story,
Here.
Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger. Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Fort Collins please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members and guests, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Henriksen.
I hereby moveth yond the reading of the journal of Monday, Marcheth 7, 2022, beest dispensed with the journal and the journal beest did approve as corrected by the Senate, or the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? The ayes very much have it, and that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
correctly printed Senate Bills 146, 147, 148, and 149, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bill 1132-77, correctly revised House Bill 1071, correctly re-revised House Bill 1057, 1070, 1097, 1099, 1101, correctly enrolled Senate Bill 4559-64, Senate Joint Resolution 002.
Committee reports.
March 7, 2022, the Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointment and recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirm members of the Colorado Healthcare Affordability and Sustainability Enterprise Chase for a term expiring May 15, 2025. Barbara Carveth of Arvada, Colorado, to serve as an employee of a Safety Net Hospital in Colorado, appointed. Matthew Stephen Calusi of Aurora, Colorado, to serve as an employee of the State Department, reappointed. Claire Reed of Pueblo, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the healthcare industry who does not represent a hospital or insurance company, reappointed. Robert John Vasso of Larkspur, Colorado, to serve as an employee of an urban hospital in Colorado, reappointed. March 7, 2022, the Committee on Health and Human Services has under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar. Confirm member of the Colorado Healthcare Affordability and Sustainability Enterprise Chase for a term expiring May 15, 2025. Heather Lafferty of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a business that purchases or otherwise provides health insurance for its employees, appointed. March 2, 2022, the Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirm members of the Colorado Healthcare Affordability and Sustainability Enterprise Chase for a term expiring May 15, 2025. Ryan Westrom of Arvada, Aurora, Colorado, to serve as a representative of statewide organization of hospitals, reappointed March 7, 2022. The Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar. Confirmed members of the Statewide Historical Society Board of Directors for terms expiring July 1st, 2024. Richard Benenson of Aspen, Colorado, appointed. Carlos Martinez of Denver, Colorado, appointed. And Tamara Joyce Warren of Denver, Colorado, reappointed March 7, 2022. The Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be confirmed. Members of the State Historical Society Board of Directors for terms expiring July 1st, 2024. Kathy McLean of Finland of Denver, Colorado, reappointed. And Donna Lynn of Denver, Colorado, reappointed March 7, 2022. The Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1135 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar March 7, 2022. Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1112 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation March 7, 2022. Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1017 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar.
Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 150 by Senators Danielson, Representatives Duran, and Herod, concerning responding to the missing Indigenous persons crisis and in connection therewith establishing the Office of Liaison for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 151 by Senators Danielson and Story, Representatives McCluskey and Will, concerning the creation of a cash fund for use by the Department of Transportation to fund projects that provide safe road crossings for connectivity of wildlife and thereby reduce wildlife vehicle collisions.
Transportation and Energy.
Senate Bill 152, Senators Fenberg and Huckas Lewis, concerning authorization for a person whose residence is destroyed or becomes uninhabitable to continue to use the address of the residence as a person's residence for purposes of voting if the person intends to return to the residence once it is replaced or becomes habitable.
State Veterans and Military Affairs. That might be the best bill of the year. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will proceed out of order to take up consideration of resolutions. Consideration of resolutions. Will the clerk please read the title of Senate Joint Resolution 005?
Senate Joint Resolution 005 by Senators Gardner and Bridges, Representative Ranson and Valdez D., concerning the designation of March 8, 2022 as Colorado Aerospace Day.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my colleague and I, we move SJR 22005.
Is there any discussion?
Go ahead.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is the designation of today, March 8th, as Colorado Aerospace Day. And we are going to be and are back in person. As part of this moving the resolution, I want to tell you and ask you to join us for the day's activities that will begin with the reading of a proclamation on the West Steps. More about that to follow. Colorado remains the #1 state in the country for private aerospace employment concentration. 34,000 Coloradans are directly employed in aerospace, with the cluster of 34,000 really directly and indirectly supporting more than 240,000 jobs. That's nearly 250,000 jobs in Colorado. This is 28,000, nearly 29,000 military aerospace jobs in Colorado, with over 500 space-related companies and suppliers, half of those companies employing 10 or more, or 10 or fewer rather. So it's not just large prime contractors of whom you're very familiar, but 9 of the top aerospace contractors do have significant operations here. I make my living as a government procurement attorney, and many of these are my clients. I would note that, for instance, today we have a representative from Calliola Engineering, what happens to be a client of mine. So I don't think I get fined for that. But anyway, take it away.
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Colorado, we do space. It is no coincidence that we are the state with the highest average elevation. We are the closest state to space, and we have the #1 per capita aerospace economy in the entire country. And I am incredibly proud of that. And because we have the incredible aerospace economy that we have, that means we also have a whole lot of military installations in this state related to space. We have, for the moment and for the future, we'll continue to have Space Command. We're going to fight to make sure we keep Space Command. The concentration of Space Force is currently in this state. We've got Buckley, Peterson, and Schriever, and we are just so proud of everything that our men and women in uniform are doing here to keep Colorado at the forefront of space. We have Cyber Command, newly headquartered here in Colorado as well at the Air Force Academy. So lots going on with aerospace and defense here in the state, and very proud to run this resolution this year again with the good senator from Springs.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you. And as you vote, I want you to know that we're going to have the Aerospace and Defense Caucus panel at noon, exhibitor showcase. This will all be at the McNichols Civic Center building with Governor Polis making remarks around 5 p.m. Members, please join us and vote for this resolution observing Aerospace Day, and join us in the festivities for Aerospace Day at the Capitol, back in person with all the neat exhibits down at the McNichols Civic Center building starting around noon. We ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion or announcements? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 005. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 005 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
Third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 113?
Senate Bill 113, Senators Hansen and Buckner, Representative Tipper and Bacon, concerning the use of personal identifying data and in connection therewith creating a task force for the consideration of artificial intelligence restricting the use of facial recognition services by state and local government agencies, temporarily prohibiting the use of facial recognition services by public schools, and making an appropriation.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 113 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, so pleased to be doing this bill with my good friend from Aurora and our colleagues in the House. This is a really critical moment with facial recognition technology. We know there are some great promise and some great things this technology will bring to our daily lives, to our safety, to our society, but there's also some downsides. And this bill is really focused on making sure that we measure twice and cut once. We need to make sure we're not having high error rates and putting the appropriate safeguards on the use of facial recognition technology, particularly because of the high error rate for people of color. And I'm so pleased to bring this bill to you today, and I'll turn it over to my co-sponsor.
Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this task force is going to do work that will help all of us, because humans tend to believe in technology. I do too. However, there are some downsides to that. So this bill is going to make sure that artificial intelligence is used to the best of its ability, and I'm proud to be a sponsor of this bill.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, The motion is the passage of Senate Bill 113. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Sonnenberg, Gardner, the Minority Leader, Lundin, Scott, Smallwood. With a vote of 27 ayes, 7 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 113 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Rankin, Priola, Jaquez Lewis, Bridges, Winter, Pedersen, Story, Lee, Janal, Fields, please add the president. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1071?
House Bill 1071 by Representatives Woodrow and Senator Rodriguez concerning available relief for plaintiffs who prevail in a class action under the Colorado Consumer Protection Act.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1071 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you may be entitled to damages. The reality is this particular bill is a revenue and marketing program for a certain class of attorneys in search of a problem in society. When you consider the studies by Mayer and Brown, does class action benefits benefit class members, and empirical analysis of class action suits, it demonstrates that private class actions do not promote the goals that the Colorado Consumer Protection Act already promotes. It does not provide prompt, economical, and readily available remedies against consumer fraud. According to the study, 30% of class actions were dismissed with no relief provided to the class. Another 30% were settled with minimal relief for the class. Now, you've all received in the mail little postcards that say you may be entitled to damages. The reality is, most of these things are nickel, dime, dollars, and cents for a few individuals, the folks imputed or that implied will be benefited, but the reality is, the folks that benefit most from this expansion, unnecessary expansion of class action suits, is a certain class of attorneys that seek to aggregate hundreds and thousands of individuals together where they actually make meaningful material gains. But the people that they allege to represent don't gain ground. The Colorado Consumer Protection Act is already working. It provides robust incentives for private litigants to pursue individual claims through the availability of treble damages. If you have a need, if there is a problem, you can gain 3 times through the damages that already exist in the law and attorney's fees. Together, we have self-help in our county courts to bring small claims. There doesn't really need to be this particular bill. The Colorado Consumer Protection Act provides already the tools and incentives for the Attorney General to pursue broader enforcement through representative action on behalf of the people. So, I go back to the case I was making before. The reality is, this is a bill that is a marketing scheme. It is a promotional scheme. It's a revenue source for a certain class of individual attorneys, in fact, in search of a problem in society. I urge your no vote on 1071. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Short thing of clarification, and as my colleague said, I think we could make a lot of arguments of whatever type of attorneys and what we think of their profession, but as the old joke says, how many at the bottom of the ocean is a good start. So Colorado is not a hotbed. We do have the Consumer Protection Act that's been in force. We do not have treble damages in Colorado. We only have actual. I mean, while this bill may pertain to giving, I argue that this gives people the right for corporations to not take advantage of them. The Attorney General is fine and dandy. I don't think Attorney Generals should decide. We are electing people who will file class actions based on elections. This just gives people the access to the courts, just like everybody else has access to the courts. I stand in strong favor and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I looked at this bill and I looked at it gleefully as a simple country lawyer because it's great for the legal profession. From time to time you hear me say that I see bills that are great for the legal profession, but not so good for my constituents. And I'm not here to represent all of the lawyers in Colorado, the class action trial attorneys who will get multi-million-dollar fees for this bill, and the defense attorneys who will defend and likewise collect large fees. I wonder how many of you here have ever been a part of a class action, gotten one of those notices that you're a class plaintiff? Like everybody. Everybody. How many of you ever got more than $100 in a class action? I need to take my hand down. Or more than $50? Well, the senator from Denver hit the jackpot. How many of you got a coupon for a discount at Blockbuster, if you remember them, or something? I did that. My point is, members, by creating class actions in the Colorado Consumer Protection Act, we're really not going to benefit consumers. We're going to enrich plaintiffs' attorneys and, by reference, defense attorneys as well. Now you say, but there is an argument for this. All those people who collect, who are part of a class, they get $5 or $10 or a coupon for some discount on the pizza. Those class lawyers will, they will have vindicated this interest. Well, we have someone who does that, and the current incumbent of the office that does that, the Attorney General, is quite aggressive, if you read the newspapers. I applaud him for representing the people of Colorado and in consumer protection. That's why we elect an Attorney General. We don't need to create a whole set of litigation that really is an albatross around the neck of growing businesses. Members, one more time, if you want to help lawyers, if you want to enrich attorneys, if that is who you represent here, then vote yes. But if it is business, employers, and the citizens who have the cost of expensive litigation passed through to them in every product, in every insurance policy, if those are who you represent, then vote no with me. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1071. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Priola, Woodward, Cook, the Minority Leader, Lundeen, Gardner, Liston, Rankin, Sonnenberg, Heisey, Simpson, Zenzinger, Coram, Scott, with a vote of 19 ayes, 15 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1071 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Gonzalez, the Majority Leader, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. There has been a request to remove Senate Bill 103 from the consent calendar. Colleagues, that will be added to the bottom of the General Orders Second Reading of Bills calendar.
Senate Bill 103 will be removed from the consent calendar and added to the General Order Second Reading of Bills calendar. General Orders Second Reading of Bills. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Orders Second Reading of Bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the General Order Second Reading of Bills, and Senator Rodriguez will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the coat rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the General Order Second Reading of Bills?
No.
Just yours? Oh, okay. Will the clerk please read Senate Bill? Oh, I got the wrong book.
House Bill 1073.
House Bill 1073.
House Bill 1073, Representatives Robertson Soper, Senators Corman Donovan, concerning authorization to enter the premises of an establishment that provides services related to dead human bodies in order to perform an inspection.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1073.
That is a proper motion. Any Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this bill comes to us under pretty horrific reasons and circumstances. Unfortunately, there was exceptional and I would say quite deplorable behavior by a few members of what is normally a very respectable and well-run industry. And the reason for this bill is that there were general complaints about the behavior of these individuals that were not respecting the process of death and burial and were treating deceased loved ones under quite, I keep returning to the word deplorable. And the state did not have the ability to inspect and respond to those complaints and instead had to take many months to build a case under which they could get a warrant. By the time they were able to enter these facilities and inspect them, they found human remains with mold on them. They found an infant body that had decomposed to the state at which it could no longer be identified. These are circumstances that are hard to imagine, that someone would think that that was the appropriate way to not only run a business, but run a business that is so important at this point of tragedy and mourning. So this bill that has the support of the industry would allow the state to respond to complaints and go in and inspect these facilities and hopefully have a much more proactive response to eliminate this from ever happening again. And unless my co-sponsor would like to make comments, I would ask for an aye vote.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Donovan, for carrying this. This is something that we all go through. And this very day, our family is dealing with a very reputable funeral home, but not all are. And I think this is just vital that we give this bill full consideration and the families the respect they are due. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this bill? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1073. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the bill of Senate Bill 009?
Senate Bill 009 by Senators Janal and Heisey, Representatives Byrd and Benavides, concerning catalytic converters and a connection therewith, establishing procedures for the evaluation and certification of aftermarket catalytic converters and enacting measures to address the theft of catalytic converters.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 2009 and the accompanying committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee report, we had to amend out a portion of the catalytic converter bill that dealt with the supply side, had something to do with a $19 million fiscal note that we thought might be a bit of a heavy lift to do that all in 1 year. So we amended that out, which brought us to appropriations with a fiscal note of 0.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senate Bill 009 is about catalytic converter theft. It is on the rise. In 2019, it was a concern, and in 2022, it is a crisis. Catalytic converter theft, as it increases, so does the harm to businesses as well as to ordinary citizens that are the victims. These cars become inoperable or non-compliant with emission laws, meaning people can't go to work, they can't go to school, or do simple errands. And the supply chain is also being strained because of these thefts. The sudden and the drastic increase in theft may have left people without options to replace their converters because manufacturers have not been able to keep up. Why are these catalytic converters in demand? The price of materials, the cost of catalytic converters has skyrocketed from what used to be maybe $200 for a catalytic converter is now anywhere from $1,000, $2,000, and sometimes even more. And when victims of theft are unable to obtain a new converter, they can't operate their vehicle. And this means that they would lose their jobs, their children can't go to school, they can't go to school, or if someone does operate the vehicle, it can create significant harm on our air quality. So this bill seeks to curb theft by 3 things: utilizing the Commodity Metal Theft Task Force to increase record-keeping requirements and transparency, by amending the Chop Shop statute to include catalytic converters, which it didn't, as a major vehicle component, and 3, to require the use of a national theft database to check the VIN information to see if a part is stolen or a part is part of an investigation. These thefts are happening every day. It happens to probably people that you know out here, your neighbors, even your relatives. It happens in garages. We just heard about a couple of them over the past week, and it can happen in an instant. People do not feel safe leaving their cars out at night. By leveraging the Commodity Metal Task Force, law enforcement will be able to work upstream and break up large operations and prevent catalytic converter theft. I urge your support. I think the people of Colorado need this bill in order to prevent theft of catalytic converters. Please vote yes.
Senator, thank you. We're still on the committee report, so is there any further discussion on the Transportation Energy Committee report? Any objections to adopting the Transportation Energy Committee report? Seeing all in the favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. If anybody would like to speak on the bill, now is the time. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I do rise in support of the amended version of Senate Bill 9. I want to thank the bill sponsors and stakeholders outside the chamber for working hard going into the Committee on Transportation hearing on this bill. The committee report made significant change to this bill. Also want to say thank you to a couple of folks, a couple of groups outside of the chamber, the Independence Institute, specifically Joshua Shara, for writing about his concerns about the bill as introduced. I don't know if Mr. Shara has changed his position, but I hope he does. And also, at least one of the rating groups that focuses on liberty, they took a position of oppose. I hope that they will also take another look at Senate Bill 9 in its amended version. There were a lot of concerns about rulemaking authority and empowering government, and the good senator from Fort Collins mentioned supply chain changes that were originally in Senate Bill 9 that have been taken out. I'm asking you to join us, the sponsors and I, in supporting Senate Bill 9 because my family has been victim to this. And if you'd had asked me in early January of this year, did I think that having catalytic converters stolen was a significant life event, I would have said, no, they're like fancy mufflers. You just, I don't know why anybody would steal them, but if they do, you take it to the shop, put new ones in. I think the good senator from Fort Collins was pretty accurate. I haven't been in the car business in decades, but hundreds of dollars, have somebody weld some new ones in, shouldn't be that big a deal. I was wrong. In mid-January, my son, who is now 22 years old, called and said, Dad, my truck, he has a new pickup truck. He's very proud of it. He was parked outside of King Soopers in Castle Rock. He said, my truck's making a loud noise. I don't know what it is. That was about 12 minutes from my house, so I drove down, make sure everything was okay. As soon as he hit the ignition, I knew exactly what it was. If you've been around drag race cars that run just with open headers, that's what it was. I looked under his truck, and sure enough, all 4 catalytic converters in his pickup truck were gone. That was 7 weeks ago. He's been in a rental car since that happened. Now, he's still on our insurance, and we have good insurance, and we have 30 days of rental car coverage. And that ran out. So now we're paying for it. He's paying for it out of his pocket. He's a college student. He works 5 days a week, attends classes with CSU Global at night and on the weekends. He's got great grades, but I'm proud of my son. But somebody rolled underneath his pickup truck with a Sawzall and cut thousands of dollars worth of materials out of that truck, and he can't use it. He's still making payments on his truck, but for 7 weeks, it's been sitting at a collision shop in Parker. That's where you take your car when your catalytic converters are cut out. You don't take it to the dealership. You don't take it to the Midas muffler shop. You take it to a collision shop because this is an insurance claim, just like if you had a car accident. And it's thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. Now, if he didn't have our good insurance, the good senator from Fort Collins is exactly right. If the victim of this crime isn't in a situation like my son is, maybe a single parent trying to get to work, trying to get kids to school, doesn't have another car, maybe doesn't have the greatest insurance there is, what happens? They can't legally drive the car. And unless you know what it's like to drive a car with open headers, even if you're willing to take the risk and drive it illegally, you wouldn't want to. It's thunderingly loud, even in a small car with a small engine. 7 weeks. Why has it taken this so long? Because they got to put brand new catalytic converters into that pickup truck, and there aren't any. It's a Toyota Tundra. There aren't any. The collision shop has tried to order the catalytic converters for that truck for 7 weeks, and they're not due in for another week and a half or 2, maybe, if that shop gets lucky and gets one of those limited a number that are being manufactured. Well, as many as they possibly can, but the demand is so high. Why? Because catalytic converter theft is something brand new. It's rampant. The day that my son experienced this, I went down to help him. I took him over to an Advance Auto trying to figure out a way. Is there a way we could patch this up? No, not legally. When we were there, another gentleman came in with a Honda Element. He said, my car's making this loud noise. Sure enough, his catalytic converters were cut out in the same area on the same day. It wasn't late at night. The good senator from Fort Collins said one thing I want to clarify. I don't necessarily disagree with her because a lot of this theft does take place in the middle of the night. But our experience, noon on a clear, sunny Sunday afternoon, midday, outside a grocery store. Very busy. Nobody noticed anybody rolling underneath the truck. Zip, 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 zip. Thousands of dollars into their pocket. Thousands of dollars out of our insurance company in our pocket. And if my son didn't have his parents and our good insurance, he could be out of his job. And because he couldn't pay for college, he might have to drop out of college. Why? Because somebody rolled under his truck with a Sawzall and stole his catalytic converters. Members, I want to encourage you, please support this bill, and to the bill sponsors, thank you for being so attentive to the concerns outside the chamber, for amending the bill, and for the Transportation Committee for passing this bill. Thank you. This is a step in the right direction. I want to say thank you to the bill sponsors for bringing the bill, and for those outside who understandably oppose the bill as introduced, please take another look at Senate Bill 9. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to continue to be a no vote on this bill, and I understand the frustration that the minority leader has had and his family has had, but this doesn't change that. This doesn't make the penalty for stealing catalytic converters any worse. What this does is says we are going to collect data on you if you're selling catalytic converters. We want everything about you, plus we want a video of you if we pay you more than $300. We want picture documentation of you. I understand the concern. I have no doubt that the bill is going to pass. But I'm still going to be I was going to be a quiet no vote. Now I'm just a no vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'll speak to the item that the good senator from Sterling brought up. I scrap quite a bit because I get paid for dumping my trash. And for years, and it comes from a piece of legislation that myself and then Senator Heath worked on probably about a decade ago. They changed the regime because there was a lot of theft of just copper and so on and so forth. So now when I go in, they videotape the license on my vehicle, they have me in the data, they ask for my license. So they already do this for just simple aluminum cans, scrap steel, whatever, copper. So you're in the database, and they can use that data to find out if someone's, it's their business and they're using a lot of stolen, or they're turning in a lot of stolen material. So what this would do is dissuade someone who it's what they do in the morning, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, is they steal catalytic converters and cause a lot of havoc for a lot of people. I was going to come up and say, dealing with addiction issues, there is a bit of a nexus with some of these kind of thefts and people that are struggling with mental health and addiction. So I would like to also keep that in mind as we have discussions on other bills later in the session. I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Corum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I sat through quite a few of these stakeholder meetings on this, and I truly understand the situation. And at one time was looking at even sponsoring the bill, but with my workload, I felt I didn't have the time. But the need is not any less. This is organized. This is not some 16-year-old that says, well, I need to go buy a pack of cigarettes or whatever. This is organized. And I'm concerned that we're not going far enough on this bill because it's easy. These are very valuable. They're very small and easy to haul them out of state to a location where you are not tracked. And so anyway, I'm a solid yes on the bill. I just wish that it could actually address the real problem.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having your picture taken, video if you're recycling catalytic converters. Do you remember back in 2007, 8, 9, the foreclosure crisis that occurred? Remember that? Do you remember what some people were doing when they vacated a home and let it go into foreclosure? Not everybody, but some people were gutting the copper pipe and the wiring and the fixtures. What were they doing with those? They're going out building a new house? No, they were recycling those materials. This is not the first type of crime that involved stealing materials, or maybe those people didn't steal them out of their own house, but they gutted their house, went and recycled them and took the value out of them. It's not the first situation where we've had that kind of dynamic. So yes, if you're selling catalytic converters in Colorado, you might have a picture of you and the materials so that there's evidence. You know, that might be like receiving or selling stolen goods. Yeah. As for the lack of an increase to the penalty, why is that not happening in this bill? I'm not the chair of this committee or the Transportation Committee, but I think as a former committee chair and having stood up there with a gavel in my hand, it would be a challenge for me to put increased penalties under this bill title. But I want to thank the good senator, I believe, from Arvada. We've had some conversations with stakeholders outside the room. I believe that there's a request that maybe there would be another bill with a different title that would seek to do exactly that. So is this better than strengthening the penalties? No, but this is necessary too. This deals with where the recycled materials go. Who is recycling those materials? Are they the people that rolled under my son's pickup truck with a Sawzall? Or are those people handing off those materials to someone who's gathering large quantities of these? Are they selling them into other states? If you're out there and you are naive, as I was about this, please have your car VIN number engraved, permanently entered somehow. I think it's engraving onto your catalytic converters so that they can be traced back to your vehicle. If you have an SUV, a pickup truck, a hybrid a hybrid vehicle, here the Prius is one of the prime targets. Think about going to an auto shop and getting it's like a skid plate. Get a cage, get security devices attached to your vehicle that makes it harder, more challenging, more time-consuming for thieves to steal your catalytic converters. The hundreds of dollars of investment is definitely worth it. Had I known, we would have done that to my son's pickup truck before mid-January, but we didn't. You don't want to be a victim of this because you could lose use of your vehicle literally for months and be out thousands of dollars. Members, again, I ask your support for Senate Bill 009, and I'm very hopeful that we will see another bill that will address exactly what my good friend from Sterling mentioned. Let's increase the penalties for the people who commit the crimes, and let's increase the penalties for the people who receive those stolen goods and then resell them. Let's get tough on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I would also like to encourage an aye vote on Senate Bill 009. We did hear this in the Transportation Committee, and one of the things that I would like to discuss is this amended version. And the reason why this amended version still needs to pass is because this is a multi-pronged problem, and sometimes you cannot address all of the different facets of the problem in a single bill, because there are different components to this problem. There is a law component to this problem. There is a technical supply chain component to this problem. There are issues with regulations and our air quality that is a part of this problem. There is the issue that was just spoken about by the minority leader about the recyclers and the thieves and where they take these goods to be sold. So there's many different facets that have to do with this problem, and sometimes you can't solve all of them in a single bill. I believe very strongly that the problem that we're trying to solve in this bill will do good. It's trying to get ahead of the reason why these things are being stolen in the first place. And I think that's a good thing to do. And I believe that this component in the context of the larger problem is really important. And so with that, I encourage an aye vote.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to reiterate the legislation itself, and it really has three facets to it, and that is theft, salvaging of the metals. That is, if you're caught taking off a catalytic converter, the penalty for violating the provisions depends on the value of the transaction, but for a single catalytic converter, the offense will range from a petty offense to a Class 1 misdemeanor. Petty offense is $500 or 6 months or 6 months. Class 1 misdemeanor is a maximum of 18 months and a $5,000 fine. The second part is operating a chop shop. That means the bill's clarifying that a catalytic converter is a major component of a motor vehicle part for the purposes of establishing the crime or operating a chop shop. The penalty for selling, transferring, or transporting an illicit part under this provision is a Class 5 felony, 3 years or a $100,000 fine. The third part is auto part recyclers. This is if they are non-compliant. Doing it under the table. This is also any person who acquires 5 or more vehicles in a year in order to reclaim parts. This is a Class 2 misdemeanor, and it's I don't have the amount of money or the amount of jail time that might include, but those are the three parts: salvaging metals, operating a chop shop, auto part recyclers. All have fines as well as maximum sentences. So just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You've heard that this is going to be a multi-pronged approach. I predict this will not be the last catalytic converter bill we hear in this session. You also heard about the copper theft. The way we got copper theft under control is we created a commodity metals task force and targeted the folks that were purchasing the copper that had been stolen. We didn't go after them with penalties. We went after them with information. We went after them with photo IDs, with those types of things. One thing this bill does is it takes those 3 precious metals that are in the catalytic converters, which are worth, one of them in particular is worth several times more than its weight in gold. And we are elevating those to commodity metals, and the task force will now go to those recyclers who are purchasing this, and we'll help get it stopped the same way that we get the copper theft stopped. So I argue that this really does do good. It's really tough. It was really hard to catch people stealing copper. It's even harder to catch them stealing catalytic converters because it is so much faster. So I would urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is adoption of House Bill 1070 or Senate Bill 009. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 103?
Senate Bill 103, Senator Gonzalez, concerning a remedy for improperly entered guilty pleas.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 103 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the committee report, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Senate Judiciary Committee, we were able to move forward amendments that we partnered along with the Colorado District Attorney's Council, and that brought them to a neutral position. I ask for an aye vote on the Judiciary Committee report.
Is there any discussion on the committee report? All those in favor of adopting the Judiciary Committee report say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the report is adopted. Senator Gonzalez. Oh, there is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L003?
Amendment L003.
Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L003 to Senate Bill 103.
Would you like to explain the amendment, Senator Gonzalez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L003 just clarifies that that municipal ordinances also pertain to Senate Bill 3 and clarify some technical issues in regards to applicability, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is for the adoption of Amendment L003. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. To the bill, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I renew my motion and ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of Senate Bill 103. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Majority Leader Fenberg. Moreno. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion for the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report that it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendation thereon. Senate Bill 103 as amended, Senate Bill 9 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1073 passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 aye, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 103 is amended. Senate Bill 009 is amended. Passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1073 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Governor's appointments. Consideration of governor's appointments, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the appointments listed?
Includes members of the Colorado Agricultural Development Authority and members of the Colorado Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all the appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, all of the appointments are confirmed. Announcements. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the Senate State Veteran Military Affairs Committee will be meeting today in the Old Supreme Court at 2 o'clock. We'll hear 4 bills: Senate Bill 133, House Bill 1060, House Bill 1044, Senate Bill 110. We are laying over Senate Bill 66. Thank you very much.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Local Government Committee will meet at 2 p.m. today. We are hearing 2 bills, Senate Bill 72 and House Bill 1087.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Transportation and Energy is going to be meeting at 2:30 today, not 2:30, and we have 1 bill, House Bill 1046.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I have some very sad news. Aaron Rodgers has agreed to terms with the Green Bay Packers.
Further announcements. Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. A moment of personal privilege, if we could.
Granted.
Thank you. Colleagues, today is International Women's Day, and anyone who would like to come down and be supportive and speak to that, we'd love to ask you to join us. There is a theme for 2022, which is Break the Bias. Imagine a gender-equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias. Individually, we are all responsible for our own thoughts, actions, all day, every day. We can break the bias in our communities. We can break the bias in our workplaces. We can break the bias in our schools, colleges, and universities. Together, we can all break the bias on International Women's Day and beyond. Whether deliberate or unconscious, bias makes it difficult for women to move ahead. Knowing that bias exists isn't enough. Action is needed to level the playing field. Are you in? Will you actively call out gender bias and discrimination and stereotyping each time you see it? Will you break the bias? And the symbol for Women's International Day is a cross symbol to break the bias. Nobody else? Okay.
Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. President. International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. And this day has occurred for well over a century, with the first International Women's Day gathering in 1911, supported by over 1 million people. Today, International Women's Day belongs to all groups, collectively, everywhere. International Women's Day is not country, group, or organization specific. It's all about breaking the bias today. And over in the House, we have a large group of African American ladies who are in their native dresses, and I'm hoping they can come over here, but if they can't, I'll make sure you all see photographs. And I wore this special necklace that was given to me from someone from Liberia for International Women's Day. So join the movement.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. Members, I rise in support to International Women's Day, but speaking of what's going on internationally, I think we need to focus today on the patriots and the slaughter that's going on in Ukraine as we speak. And the slaughter is going on for the women and children and the patriots in Ukraine. Just yesterday, as you know, I brought this up on Friday that we need to stand in support of the patriots, of what's going on, and of the rape and the pillage and the plunder and the destruction of what's going on in Ukraine. It is absolutely uncalled for. Just yesterday, 21 Ukrainians, most of them women, 2 of them children, were killed in a town called Sumy in Ukraine. Thousands more are being killed and slaughtered as we speak, as we stand here right now. Every day, every minute, the Russians are indiscriminately bombing and killing the men, women, and children in Ukraine. This is unconscionable. What is going on is a direct parallel to what happened in World War II. The world stood by and did nothing as Germany, in 1936, we could have stopped World War II as Germany entered the Rhineland. The world stood by while Germany entered the Rhineland, and we did nothing. The world stood by as Germany entered the Sudetenland in 1938 and took over Czechoslovakia. The world stood by and watched the Japanese aggression in Indochina. And what we got, we thought we were getting peace, but instead we got war. So today I ask you to stand, just like I asked for you, and to help the Ukrainians. And there are legitimate ways to do so. I mentioned a couple of them, is the International Rescue Committee, which helps people affected by the humanitarian crisis, which is collecting donations that will go to the Ukrainian families. The other legitimate, and there's more than 2, there's many, is Project Hope, is shipping medicine and medical supplies for the impacted people of Ukraine. I practice what I preach. Just this morning, I too donated to Project Hope. I have the websites, which I'll read them briefly, and then you can come and see me. International Rescue Committee is www.rescue.org, and Project Hope is www.projecthope.org. I will hope you will join me, and I thank you for those who are today wearing these pins of support for the Ukrainian people. Please see me. I see they have pins up here today, and wear them each and every day. And remember, why we are safe and sound in our God-blessed country is that men, women, and children are losing their homes, they're losing their livelihoods, they're losing their lives each and every day. So I encourage you to step forward, make a modest donation, make a large donation. Whatever you do is help the international women of Ukraine, and as well as these countries like Poland and Slovakia and Hungary and Romania that are bringing in and allowing these refugees. So far, and it's probably upwards of 2 million by now, but at least 1.8 million refugees are crossing the borders to the west. Poland itself has admitted over 1 million refugees, women and children. Most of the men are staying and fighting to protect and defend their country against this uncalled for Russian aggression. So once again, members, and thank you, Mr. President, I hope you'll join me and probably thousands of others in making a modest donation to help the people of Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, reminder once again, it's Aerospace Day at the Capitol. We are having Aerospace and Defense Caucus panel at noon at the McNichols Civic Center building. There are displays starting at 3. Feel free to join us for any or all of the Aerospace Day events, and you can find the agenda for Colorado Aerospace Day on Eventbrite. And now, Mr. President, I would request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I want to show you, some of you will recognize, and I couldn't get this on the screen, this as the crest of the USS Colorado. The USS Colorado is returning from its second deployment. We have done a joint tribute, and I would like to read it to you. Normally I would have the plaque and the tribute, but they are on their way to Connecticut to meet the boat when it arrives in port. The Senate and House of Representatives convened in the second regular session of the 73rd General Assembly hereby welcome home USS Colorado. USS Colorado, one of the Navy's newest nuclear warships, was commissioned on March 17, 2018, and is the first submarine to bear the name of the state of Colorado, continuing the great legacy of the previous USS Colorado, a World War II battleship, which received 7 battle stars for her combat service. USS Colorado will be returning from her second deployment involving many months of submerged operations with minimal contact with loved ones back at home. While deployed, the Colorado is our nation's first line of defense, a strong strategic deterrent on watch and owning the seas. Coloradans are proud and honored that the Colorado name and state flag are carried into the field on her deployments, and that we are represented by such a patriotic crew of sailors and officers from across our country who share the faith of Coloradans in democracy and service to one's country. The Colorado Senate, jointly with the Colorado House of Representatives, commends the crew of USS Colorado and expresses our gratitude for their sacrifice and that of their families. We respect and honor all that the crew has given in defense of the United States of America. Please join me in making record of our welcome home USS Colorado, whose motto is untamed by land or sea. Thank you.
I just have an
Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. President. CDC will be meeting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in room 357.
Senator Fields.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to join in with the women that are standing up front in celebration of the International Women's Day. Women's Day is a global celebration that's taking place around the world. And basically, it's an opportunity where women are raising awareness about equality issues that need to be addressed. So we were challenged earlier. We were challenged to break the bias. And I'm asking each of you to lend voice when you see bias. I'm asking you to take a stand and action when you see bias happening in any corner of our state or any room that you might be in. We're calling for equality in all places and in all things. I wish I could be there with you because typically on this day, we do have women from Africa, from all continents, from all areas, dressed in their uniform. So I'm here just playing my part by wearing my Kente Express cloth in solidarity for the women who are hardworking. Because when women don't succeed, it brings all of us down. We are all more successful when women are successful. So please help me to break the bias for all of us. Thank you.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I want to thank our friend from El Paso County, Colorado Springs, for reminding us again of what's happening in the Ukraine. I also want to ask or encourage, invite, that if there is a willingness and interest in addressing either through calling on the governor, calling on Congress, possibly legislative efforts on our own parts, to move back toward energy independence. I know that oil and gas exploration is something that we have found disagreement about in the past. Mr. President, you ran a very significant bill. You were the prime sponsor as majority leader in 2019. And I'm not suggesting repeal of that legislation. I don't want to push too far. But we Americans, Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, progressive, liberal, conservative, whatever your labels are, we can stand together because Russia right now has an advantage. We are relying on them, on Russia, for oil and gas. And we have our own. I recall stories of my maternal grandfather during World War II. One of the things that he did was go through his neighborhood to organize and conduct recycle drives. Rubber, copper, lead, anything that could be used in the war effort, and people gave and gave and gave and gave. We have the ability to shed the victim position that we have right now, the concern, and we have the ability to bring force against the aggressor. It would be energy independence. And just as the leader of the Minority Caucus, Mr. President, I just put my hand up to say, if there is a willingness to have that conversation, Governor, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, if there's a willingness to have a conversation about how we might at least temporarily shift the tables, turn the tables on Vladimir Putin and Russia, we stand ready to have those conversations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, if I may, I'd just like to comment on the good senator from El Paso County's resolution on USS Colorado. Members, I just wanted to highlight, and I thank the good senator from Colorado Springs about bringing the resolution for the USS Colorado. 4 years ago, he and I think several others, maybe a couple in this room, I'm not sure, but several of us were at the christening of the USS Colorado. And I just bring that to your attention because it really makes you proud to see these young Americans, men and women, that are out there on the front lines defending our country in one of the most advanced nuclear submarines in the world. And just to see what went on and meet the crew and see the submarine close up. We were actually in the submarine, and to know that the crew of the USS Colorado is out there day and night, 24/7, defending the people of not only Colorado but our nation. And that's why we have peace in our country, peace through strength. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the crew of the USS Colorado.
Message from the House.
Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitting to the Reviser of Statutes, House Bill 1226 and 1245, amended as printed in House Journal, March 7, 2022. The House has passed on third reading and returns here with Senate Bill 56.
Message from the Reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bill 1245, without comment as amended House Bill 1226.
Message from the Governor.
Monday, March 7, 2022, Colorado Senate. Honorable members of the Colorado Senate, pursuant to the authority vested in the office of the Governor of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and filed with the Secretary of State the following act: Senate Bill 62, Committee on Legal Services Procedures, approved on Monday, March 7, 2022 at 11:23 a.m. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate recess until 11 a.m. today. Colleagues, you do not need to return. We're just waiting on one bill to read across the desk.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will recess until 11 a.m. today.